Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. Time for yet another excursion into broadcast excellence, hosted by me, America's real anchorman, Rush Limbaugh, here at the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Great to have you here. It's the most listened to radio talk show in the country. Our audience, get this, the audience is spiking up to 27 million. And the way radio audiences are measured, there's two or three different things that you look at. You get an average quarter hour, not going to bother. Well, that's about 7 million at any one time is what that means. And then during the week, we're at 14 million, and during a day, 14 million total from noon to 3 Eastern. And then during the week, 27 million people, not all at one time, but 27 million cum is what that is. And it continues to spike up out there. And we thank you, and we have the greatest appreciation for it, and we understand why. Me. Telephone number is 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, so, folks, I'm not going to be here tomorrow for reasons previously stated yesterday, but Mark Stein will be here, and we'll be back here on Monday to resume our normal, if there is any normal anymore. But the attempt to reconnect with normalcy will happen on Monday. Get back to our normal schedule. Okay, so in the news today, just here's some of the overall areas we're going to get into. Samantha Power has been unmasking Americans in the last year of the Obama regime at the rate of one American every working day. 260 different Americans unmasked by someone not even in the intelligence community. She was a UN ambassador, be the equivalent of Nikki Haley. Today, unmasking a bunch of people that she thought not. I don't know that too many people know much about Samantha Power. Do you remember my in-depth explanation of the Washington establishment yesterday? She is it. She is a superiorist. She is a supremacist. She is a DNA socialist. She is an arrogant and condescending. She is constantly suffering and in pain, a facial expression that makes it appear she's constantly in pain. When she's in Obama's presence, the facial expression is though she's in the presence of God. She is married to a fellow traveler named Cass Sunstein. You may have heard that name mentioned here before. He is a classmate of Bill Clinton's going way back, and for all I know, a classmate of Obama's. But it is Cass Sunstein who is responsible on the left for the view that the Constitution is a charter of negative liberties. He may not be the originator of that take on the belief, but he was in the modern era the man who popularized it in a scholarly way. And what that basically means is that people like Sunstein and his wife Samantha Power, and all those people, Obama even talked about this, they look at the Bill of Rights as a negative. What is the Constitution? And now, given the way college students are being taught and what they think, I am confident that a wide percentage of college students does not know what the Constitution is. They do not know its history, and they do not know its premise. The Constitution's premise is to limit government. That is its brilliance, and that is its uniqueness. Never before in human history has a group of people, Americans, a population, a country, never before has a founding group of people arranged the affairs of state in such a way that the state is limited in exchange for open freedom and liberty of the population at large. Another example of American exceptionalism, if you will. Well, leftists who believe in government being at the center of everyone's lives don't like the Bill of Rights when you get right down to it. It's not just Amendment number 2. They don't like the entire Constitution, particularly the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, because they specifically limit government. They specifically spell out what government cannot do. And that's why they call it a charter of negative liberties, because to them, government's the center of the universe. The Constitution is negative toward government. That's why we applaud it. That's why we love it. That's why we defend it. That's why we protect it. That's why we swear oaths to it. It is to limit an encroaching government to prevent the slow creep of tyranny and authoritarianism. And that is its basic premise. And the left is offended by that. And that's why from FDR on, they have proposed a second Bill of Rights, which does the exact opposite of the Bill of Rights. And that is 10 amendments which would spell out what government can do. Now, they would say for you, but what it really means in their heart of hearts is what government can do to you, what government can do for itself. Anyway, Samantha Power is one of those. And she is, appropriately, as a leftist, lives in constant fear of the right, constant fear of conservatism, constant fear that the left is going to lose. She thus believes that everybody on the right is corrupt by virtue of what they think, by virtue of what they believe. Their very existence is corrupt and poses a threat to the left's view of the proper way of life. And so she was acting rogue. I guess she was rogue. I haven't delved into it enough to know if she was under orders to do this, but I would think she wouldn't need to be. Like Lois Lerner didn't need to be told to shaft conservative groups applying for tax-exempt status to the IRS. Obama didn't need to send her a memo. The fact that she was working for Obama was all anybody needed to know. She doesn't need to be told that conservatives are to be discriminated against. She doesn't need to be told that conservatives are corrupt. She doesn't need to be told to believe that conservatives pose a threat and therefore they should be penalized, limited, or what have you. She just do it. As Samantha Power would clearly, if she believes that, for example, opponents of Obama, be they in the Trump campaign or anywhere, just the very fact that they are opponents makes them suspects. The very fact that they oppose Obama. It's like Banana Republic kind of thing. The very fact that there is opposition to Obama is a political crime. And the people practicing this crime need to be exposed. And that's what Samantha Power is doing, and that's her mindset. I've never met her. I've never talked to her, but I can tell you 99% that I'm right. Because I know these people. I know who they are. I know how they think. I've heard her speak. This is their life every waking moment. They don't have fun at backyard barbecues. If they do backyard barbecues, it is to plot, strategize, discuss. They never just take it easy and relax and have a beer or watch a football game. No. Every waking moment is devoted to the cause. Do not doubt me. They rely on the fact that most people are not that way. They rely on the fact that most people are not nearly as involved and therefore not nearly as suspicious, and therefore they are free and able to operate above the line and above the radar. They're able to operate in plain view. Nobody's going to care except the opponents, and they don't think we can do anything to stop them. The average ordinary American, if this is learned like it has been, the answer will be, we didn't know she was doing it. I don't recall, but so what? So what? If she was exposing people, if she was unmasking, they deserved it. That would be the reaction. Here's Catherine Herridge. We may as well start at the top. Catherine Herridge at Fox News is the source authority for the realization that Samantha Power, Mrs. Cass Sunstein, has been unmasking Americans. It happened last night. Special report with Brett Baer. She covered all this news during the day yesterday.
Fox News is learning new information about the rapid pace of unmasking in the final months of the Obama White House. Two sources not authorized to speak on the record said the request from Samantha Power, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, exceeds 260, with one request coming in the days leading up to the inauguration.
Now, for those, again, who might be, what's the big deal here? What's unmasking? Unmasking's a crime. Can be a crime. Michael Flynn Everybody knows that name now. Michael Flynn forced to resign from the Trump administration. He was unmasked. The way it happens is the intelligence community, the DIA, the CIA, the NSA, the whoever the FBI, conducting wiretap or other kinds of surveillance on known foreign agents. For example, the Russian ambassador, whoever he is going to be surveilled. The North Korean ambassador is going to be surveilled. Wiretap, they know it. We know it. And so the Russian ambassador, the guy goes to lunch all the time, Kislyak, was under surveillance. And he talked to Flynn one day. Well, the intelligence people hear this. In this case, it was Obama intel people. It was before Trump was inaugurated, and they hear Flynn, they hear the conversation. Flynn's not supposed to be made public. His side of conversation is not supposed to be made public because he's not the target of the wiretap. But if somebody comes along and unmasks him, which happened, then, of course, it ends up in a newspaper, as it did, and Michael Flynn is destroyed. He is considered to be an agent for a foreign government. He's talking to the Soviet ambassador. The media, deep state sources can pay for the stories in the newspaper, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, put it on TV, and Flynn, after a few weeks, is destroyed. All of that is not legal. You have to get permission, and there has to be a legitimate reason for this. The unmasking happens within the intelligence agency, but they're never supposed to be public with this because these people are not the target. Unmasked names are people who were not targets. But that Samantha Power thought everybody needed to know what they were saying and doing. And why? Because they're conservatives, or because they're Republicans, or because they're not Obamaites. And simply because of that, they deserve to be unmasked. That alone would be enough for her. She's no different than the snowflakes on college campus that will engage in riots if somebody shows up and says anything that's unapproved. She's no different, that mindset. And she's not alone. So 260 names. And, of course, Manafort, we now learn, was surveilled, and that means Trump had to have been overheard talking to Manafort. Manafort was being wiretapped. He talked to Trump. It is a foregone conclusion. It's inarguable that Trump was overheard and whatever. Now, Trump found out about it and claims that his wires were tapped at Trump Tower. And everybody laughed and mocked and said he didn't even know how to say it. Your taps don't get wired. Your wires don't get tapped. Trump doesn't even know what he's talking about. But he always does. He always ends up being, to one degree or another, right. Now, people said, no. Trump was not targeted. Exactly. That's the easiest way out. Trump was not targeted. Manafort was. Well, Trump is still not wrong. It's a little overlap here. They might be able to credibly say that they didn't target Trump, that there were no wiretaps targeting Trump. But at the same time, they would know they didn't have to target Trump in order to monitor what he was saying. To certain people. You target those people, you'll get a FISA warrant to wiretap or surveil somebody, people you know Trump's going to be talking to, and bam-o. And since no negative reaction occurred, no penalties, no problems, no charges, nothing happened to any of these people that were leaking, say, and unmasking Flynn and others, then there's no reason to not unmask and release whatever you've overheard Trump saying to people or anybody else. So let's go to the audio sound bites here. This was March 5th on Meet the Press. Chuck Todd speaking with James Clapper, an elderly version of Mr. Clean, if you add some earrings in there. He was the Director of National Intelligence for Obama. Chuck Todd says, if the FBI, for instance, has a FISA court order of some sort for surveillance, would that be information you would know?
Yes.
You would be told this.
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order on something like this.
Something like this, absolutely.
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists?
I can deny it.
There is no FISA court order?
Not to my knowledge.
Of anything at Trump Tower?
No.
Well, there was. That's the problem. There was a FISA court order to wiretap Manafort. Manafort had an apartment at Trump Tower. But you heard Clapper. No. Not to my knowledge. So, did he lie? Did he not know? He said he would know. Beginning of the bite, yes, he would be told, I would know this. So, no wiretapping at Trump Tower, not to my knowledge. So Clapper goes out and says this, and the media starts laughing at Trump. What a buffoon, what an idiot. Shouldn't use Twitter, he's lying and doing all that. So last night, CNN, Don Lemon goes and gets Clapper, brings him back, says CNN has some exclusive reporting involving Manafort. Specifically, investigators got a FISA warrant to wiretap Manafort before and after the election. You said that you would know that and that you didn't know it, so it didn't happen. What's your reaction to it now?
I can't comment on a specific FISA order.
Oh!
I said some things about this on Meet the Press on the 5th of March, and I stand on that statement. I can't confirm or deny it. I cannot comment on the media reporting, which is all we have, about a FISA warrant allegedly lodged against Mr. Manafort. I can't comment on that. I will simply reiterate what I said in March, and I stand on that.
What a dodge. What a dodge. I can't comment on it. What do you mean you can't comment? You've been commenting on it every time anybody asked you until this guy sounded like Gergen yesterday or 2 days ago when he found this all the court of approval. Anyway, so they're chasing their tails now. They're lying either now or then about this, and they have been caught. But they are also confident nothing's going to happen to them. Because even though Lemon uncovered it here, it's going to die there, or will. They will not pursue it. We'll be back. Let's go back to the Don Lemon show, and one more soundbite from Clapper. This kind of exclamation point on the whole thing. After Clapper's first answer, I can't comment. I don't remember. I stand by what I said way back then. I don't know. I can't comment. And Lemon says, so did you know about a FISA warrant against Manafort at the time?
I did not. And I have to say that what we have is media reporting only. And actually, commenting on FISAs are classified. And so, even if I knew something about it, I couldn't, and I don't. And I will just conclude by saying I stand on what I said on the 5th of March.
Is it possible the president was picked up in a conversation with Paul Manafort?
It's certainly conceivable. Yeah,
is it likely?
I can't say. I wouldn't want to go there, but I will say it's possible.
Yeah, well, obviously he was. They had a FISA warrant on Manafort, if we are to believe the media. And who's the source for the media? The people that did it. Yeah, they are supposed to be classified. But 95% of the crap that's been in the newspapers about this for the last 9 months has been classified, and it's leaked anyway. So, a long way of getting there. But Clapper says, well, it's certainly conceivable, yes, that President Trump was picked up in it. It's certainly conceivable. I don't know. And I stand by. These people are caught. Samantha Power is caught. Clapper and Brennan and all of these people are caught. They have been exposed here. And so now the effort to make it appear like it's no big deal and that nobody really knows is what's underway. We are back. El Rushmo here on the cutting edge of societal evolution. You might be saying, why can't we see the FISA warrant? Rush, why don't they make these public? Well, it's a foreign court. It's what Gergen meant when he was talking about the court of approval, secret court. FISA is a secret court. We're not supposed to know. That stuff is indeed classified. But the reason, I believe, everything leaks. And there were actually a couple of stories about FISA warrants that turned out to not be true. There was a And as Louise Mensch, this anti-Trumpist from one of the UK papers, a couple others, way back, almost a year ago now, in December and January, had written that there were FISA warrants twice on Trump, and nobody could find any evidence of it, and certainly nobody wanted to produce it. But I think one of the reasons, in addition to whatever legal reasons exist, I think there's another reason why the details of some of these FISA warrants will never be leaked or made public. And that's because I suspect, of course, we'll never be able to prove this, but I suspect it's because we would find out, we would see that a lot of these FISA requests were based on the phony Trump dossier, which was the first place collusion was claimed. Remember that dossier, the Golden Showers dossier, nothing in it is true. Just to relive some recent history, a year ago, and for like 15, 16 months ago, this dossier had been floating around Washington, and everybody there knew about it. But everybody also knew that none of it could be verified, and so nobody in the drive-bys published it. But they wanted to, especially after the election. They wanted this stuff out there so bad because they wanted to do anything to hurt Trump. They wanted to do anything. And this dossier was assembled with the assistance of Russian intelligence, paid for with money and operatives from a Democrat support group named Fusion GPS, not to be confused with Fareed Zakaria GPS. And the whole thing contained just bogus, ridiculous, silly, obscene allegations, such as the one that Trump, in a visit to Moscow, stayed in the same suite that Barack and Michelle Obama had stayed in, and hired some prostitutes to come over and urinate on the bed, i.e. the Golden Showers. Well, anyway, this was shown to Brennan, who was the CIA director at the time, and he believed it. Then it was shown to Comey, and he believed it. And they all believed this, or they said they did, because it was used as the basis for all of this. I firmly believe that phony, stinking dossier is what these people used as their convenient excuse to open this entire investigation into Russian collusion. And I think a FISA warrant that exists on Manafort or anybody else will show this, that silly, unverifiable, rogue dossier formed the basis of everything. If that were made public, it would be embarrassing. It would attack and diminish the professionalism and the intelligence of these people, because it's so obviously fake. It's so obviously, in fact, it was shown to Trump, folks. The Trump dossier was demonstrated. It was shown to Trump as a demonstration. If you recall, Trump was publicly saying that he didn't need an intelligence brief every day. This before he was inaugurated, this during the transition. And the intelligence community thought that was a big slap in the face. You know, they're very important. And informing the president every day, the hotspots around the world, they think is something, the first thing that ought to happen in his business day. And Trump's saying, look, I got a good memory. It can't change that much every day. I don't need a brief every day. So they grabbed that dossier during a meeting with Trump, said, this is why you need to see us. This is the kind of stuff that can show up out there. This is the kind of stuff we think you need to know about. It was presented to him as a joke. It was presented to him as an outrageous example of why he should meet with them. It was never presented to him as factual. It was always presented as a class project. This is the kind of stuff that could be out there someday and that you need to know about. And you won't if you don't talk to us every day. And the fact that that dossier has been used as the foundation is one of the greatest miscarriages of whatever that I can recall, because everybody involved knows that it's bogus. The way it ended up in public is the great journalists at BuzzFeed grew impatient and frustrated that it would not be published anywhere else, that it would not be alluded to. And the reason is they all wanted to do it, but none of it is true. None of it could even be pretended to be close to truth. So BuzzFeed ran it. And they admitted that there's nothing to it. They admitted that none of it could be confirmed. They admitted that none of it could be verified, but that it was so important you need to know about it. That bogus, phony intel document has formed the foundation, the basis for all of this against Manafort, against Trump. And they would have a tough time walking this back. I mean, they can't come forth. You know what? That dossier is fake and phony because they based everything on this. So now they've got to carry out the Mueller investigation. They've got to take it to the end. They've got to find something here, folks. If they have to make it, they have to find something because look at all that they alleged. Look at all those newspaper stories day after day after day with all the leaks from the intel people. None of it ever established as true. No evidence ever presented. Nothing but leaks and allegations. But look at how much of it there was. So now they've got to find something. And so Mueller is now looking 10 years back into Trump's life. In fact, on that, I have a little story here from the New York Times. Mueller seeks White House documents related to Trump's actions as president. Robert Mueller, special counsel, has asked the White House for documents about some of President Trump's most scrutinized actions since taking office. Do you know what they've also done? You know what Mueller has done? Snurdly, did you know this? Do you know that Mueller has interviewed Rosenstein? You know how Rosenstein is overseeing the investigation. Rosenstein is the boss of the investigation. He's the acting attorney general since Sessions has recused himself. So on this thing, Rosenstein is the head honcho. And Mueller interviewed him. I mean, it's like interviewing the judge in a trial. It wouldn't be done. Well, anyway, the document requests provide, this is key now, the document requests provide the most details to date about the breadth of Mueller's investigation and show that several aspects of the inquiry are focused squarely on Trump's behavior in the White House. And I want to jump to the very end of this story. And I want to read to you a paragraph here at the end. Based on the document requests to the White House, there is no indication that Mr. Mueller is pressing to examine Mr. Trump's personal finances or his business dealings, areas the president has said should be off limits. Now, wait a minute. All week, we have heard that Mueller is going back 10 years, that Mueller's looking at Trump's businesses and his finances, and he's trying to wipe him out, and he's trying to find tax violations and all this. And now the New York Times, with a little buried paragraph at the very end, based on the document request of the White House, meaning based on what Mueller has asked for. He's not asked for anything beyond the period of time Trump's been president. So all these previous hysterical reports about this from the news media, including the Times, have just been bogus? Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Donald Trump is kicking ass. I'm sorry, kicking butt. While all of this is going on, Donald Trump is triumphing. The Wall Street Journal has, we touched on an aspect of the poll yesterday. There are more internals in the poll out today. But, you know, there's a bunch of favorable views now on what Trump did with Chuck and Nancy and DACA based on what happened to Pelosi. And now people are saying, remember when Trump did the Chuck and Nancy deal and agreed to kick the deficit, the debt limit issue down the road 3 months to where it would come up again? It turns out that is one of the primary reasons why the Senate can revisit the repeal and replace of Obamacare. In other words, while everybody was saying that Trump was an idiot and was stupid and had violated what Mitch and Paul wanted by having to reauthorize a debt limit again at Christmas time in December, and the Democrats would just claim government shutdown, the very fact of doing that kept the door open. It's a budget process, Senate rules and everything, kept the door open for the Senate to once again go back and tackle, repeal, replace Obamacare. And then the second thing, and we mentioned this, and we played the audio soundbite of the DACA people and the Dreamers taking over a Nancy Pelosi press conference and basically commandeering the microphone from her and calling her a liar and telling her that it's not just the kids, it's 11 million and we want amnesty. But she lost it. She didn't know what was going on. These are her friends. These are the people that should think she's on their side. And remember, the proper take on this is that the original take was that Trump has just slapped Mitch and Paul. Why, look at what Trump's done. Trump has cut a deal with Chuck and Nancy on the opposition. He's gone with the enemy here. He's disrespected the Republican leadership. This is a big deal. They were trying to say that Trump didn't know what he was doing. Trump's a buffoon, that Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan are really ticked off as a wider and wider rift between Trump and the Republicans. It's bad news, and it all because Trump doesn't know what he's doing. And yet, the real result of that doesn't even involve the Republicans because that rift already existed, and Trump was saying, the hell with it. If you're not going to help me, I'm going to go somewhere where I can. What has happened is the Democrats, the left, the snowflakes on campus, everybody else, they are livid at Chuck and Nancy for doing a deal with Trump. Trump's supporters are not livid at him for doing a deal with Chuck and Nancy. They are applauding it by almost 85%. They don't care. They have such faith in Trump that if he's dealing with Chuck and Nancy, there must be a reason, and they're going to hang with him and support him. But Chuck and Nancy's people are defecting. Chuck and Nancy's people are livid. Such is the Trump hatred that they don't think there's any value at all in helping Trump, in normalizing Trump, in securing victory for Trump. They don't think that Chuck and Nancy can outsmart Trump. They don't think Chuck and Nancy know what they're doing. The left is peeling away even further from the Democrat Party now. Trump's speech at the UN was a grand slam home run that everybody knows, but only very few will acknowledge. Most are still saying, calling him Rocket Man is just so unseemly. It's made me so nervous, and it's embarrassed me, frankly. That's a minority view. I'm telling you, things are happening here and progressing almost exact opposite of the way the drive-bys are reporting it to you. The big news, really, is the Democrats. These are the intolerant ones. You know, they're not looking at it the way Chuck and Nancy. Chuck and Nancy say, look at what we're doing. We just snookered Trump. We brought Trump over to our side. We're going to run Trump. Trump's going to have to do it our way. Chuck and Nancy supporters, you suckers, you just got played. We hate Trump. Don't you understand? We hate Trump. You're not supposed to make him look human. You're not supposed to help him at all. They're livid at Chuck and Nancy. And that's why they showed up at the DACA thing and overtook the ceremony and commandeered her microphone away from her. Time magazine cover story, divided Democrat Party debates its future as 2020 looms. I've been trying to tell people that they're in heap big trouble. You know, people get mad at me. I don't care if they're losing elections, Rush. It doesn't look like it. Looks like they're winning. Have you seen the media? Yeah, I know. And I know it irritated you. But they are losing elections, and they got no hope. They don't have... Name their big gun. They're trying to say their big gun is Tim Ryan, this new Democrat out of Ohio, who is trying to basically toss out everything the Democrat Party wants to believe in, or much of it. Anyway, let me get to the phones. We'll start here in Queens. This is Frank. It's great to have you, Frank. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Thank you, Rush. A true honor, Rush. A real honor. Thank you.
You bet, sir. Thank you.
Rush, you have such a good way of predicting what's happening. Look in your crystal ball. What's going to happen with Mueller at the end? What is he going to do? What is he going to say after this investigation?
Well, I don't know specifically what he's going to say, but he's got 17 lawyers, the vast majority of them Clinton. You know, that's That is a staff size that's unprecedented. You have in a special counsel investigation, you don't have nearly. You may have 6 lawyers. This is plus all the investigators that are out there, and most of these people are dyed in the wool. Democrats, donors, and so forth, supporters of Clinton, Obama. I don't know what he's going to say, Frank, but he can't afford to come back and say he didn't find anything. Can't afford that. The establishment has too much riding on what Mueller's job is here. He can't come back and say there's nothing. And he can't say, you know what? When we were investigating all this, what we really found was illegal activities by Hillary Clinton and her team. He can't say that. I mean, that Mueller wants to stay in the establishment. Mueller is one of these invisible, for lack of a better word, he would be one of the poobahs in it, folks. You never see him in the news. Nobody ever associates anything with him other than he's a lawyer at a white shoe firm. But he is and would be one of the people that can kick you out of it or let you in it. They've got to find something. And they're going to keep going until they do. Because the purpose of this investigation is to ultimately find something they can impeach Trump with. That's what this is. Some of the players in the National Football League want to do something that's going to keep even more people away from the game. That's going to make it even tough. Do you know you can buy a ticket at the 49ers and Rams game tonight in San Francisco for the price of a pretzel at the concession stand? They in deep doo-doo, folks. And welcome back, folks. It's a delight to have you here. Rush Limbaugh executing assigned host duties flawlessly, 0 mistakes. Telephone number, if you want to be on the program's 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. Now, there's just one little bit of news here on this whole Samantha Power business. You know, she's unmasking 260 Americans. And we had audio sound bites from the former National Director of Intelligence for Obama, James Clapper. Why do I always want to say, I have to catch myself? I mean, when I look at today silently, I think of, and then because a guy named Crapper invent the toilet? Have you heard that, or is that an old wives' tale? No, by the way, I was not making it up. The 49ers and Rams are the Thursday night game tonight on the NFL Network. It's at San Francisco. It's at Levi Stadium. And Levi Stadium is supposedly the most advanced, high-tech stadium. If everybody in there wants to use Wi-Fi at the same time, they can accommodate it, for example. Or cell. They can accommodate it. And, you know, the 49ers haven't won anything of significance in a number of years, and they haven't scored a touchdown yet this season. 2 games. They hired as their head coach the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons last year, Kyle Shanahan, not a touchdown. And they're one of, I think, 2 teams, maybe 3, in 2 games have not scored a touchdown. That means no excitement. That means the fans are there to watch offense and explosive plays. They're not seeing it. So the Rams are showing up, and the Rams, you know, they're not a team yet. I mean, they moved from St. Louis, and they've got second-year quarterback. Nobody's setting it on fire. The Rams and 49ers used to be one of the greatest rivalries in the NFL. San Francisco, Los Angeles, back in the days when the Rams were in L.A. Anyway, they are selling tickets for this game tonight for $15. That's the cost of 2 pretzels at a concession stand at Levi's Stadium. And as it is, it may be half filled like it's been all year. This is a major problem for the NFL. And they're trying to sweep this under the rug, but it is a huge problem. When they can't get face value for tickets, I mean, even if they could get half attendance at face value, there would be at least something to cling to. But when you can't even maintain face value and you're still only filling half the place up, and you haven't scored a touchdown yet this season, and people not crazy about Thursday night games anyway, and in the Bay Area, believe me, there are a lot of things other you can do on a Thursday night than go to a football game in Santa Clara. They're not even in San Francisco anymore. So I was not making up the price of the tickets, 15, but not all of them, but some pretty decent seat locations are $15. And you can buy your concessions on an app at Levi Stadium. Now, they've gone all tech. That kind of stuff doesn't matter to a real football fan. An app? What do you mean? I'm going to get up, or a vendor's going to show up and buy some beer, and that's what do you mean, an app? Anyway, since I brought this up, let me mention what I had ended the previous hour with. Here, by the way, here's the story. It's a San Francisco Chronicle. 49ers Rams tickets reselling for the price of 2 stadium pretzels. Thursday night's Rams 49er game may be the toughest sell in the history of Levi Stadium. Anyway, I've given the details there. Here is... Don't tell me I didn't put it in order. Don't tell me I didn't... Yes, I did. Here it is. Story is Pro Football Talk, the NBC NFL website. Group of players asks NFL to support Activism Awareness Month. The NFL will wrap itself in pink for breast cancer, and they'll put on faux camouflage to celebrate the military. Now, a group of players have asked Commissioner Roger Goodell to spend a month talking about race, black and white. According to Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports, a group of 4 current and former players sent the league a memo in August asking for the league's help campaigning for racial equality and criminal justice reform. The letter was signed by Seahawks defensive end Michael Bennett, Eagles safety Malcolm Jenkins, retired wide receiver Anquan Bolden, and the wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles, Torrey Smith. The 10-page letter to Roger Goodell and the executive vice president of football operations, Troy Vincent, asked the league to endorse efforts to promote an Activism Awareness Month. Neither the league nor the players who signed the memo commented, citing an agreement to keep direct communications with the commissioner private. The memo requested that the league invest time, education, political involvement, money, and other commitments from the league. They asked the league to endorse November as the time to celebrate the cause. And again, the cause is Activism Awareness Month. Issues of black and white, police brutality, this kind of thing. And then the story says here, the league is all too happy to promote safer topics, as in who can possibly be against breast cancer and who can possibly be against the military. And the league will also be delighted to sell you some merchandise to show you how much they care. To be clear, we are asking for your support, part of the memo says. We appreciate your acknowledgement on the call regarding the clear distinction between support and permission. For us, these are the players that have written the letter to Goodell. For us, your support means bear all or part of the weight of, hold up, give assistance to, especially financially, enable to function or act. We need support, collaboration, and partnerships to achieve our goal of strengthening the community. There are a variety of ways for you to get involved, Mr. Goodell. Similar to the model we have in place for players to get involved, there are 3 tiers of engagement based on your comfort level. To start, we appreciate your agreement on making this an immediate priority. In your words, from protest to progress, we need action. So we have All Pink October, which is supposed to raise consciousness to breast cancer. breast cancer. They wear camo socks and gloves and stuff to raise consciousness of the military. And now I don't know what they want the league to do, but they want there to be a month-long recognition of the problems of police brutality and discrimination in law enforcement, prison population, this kind of thing. Activism awareness. And they're asking the league to endorse November as the time to celebrate the cause. They want the NFL's help in campaigning for racial equality and criminal justice reform. What's criminal justice? I'll tell you what that is. That's police brutality and prison overpopulation. Now, what's the league going to do? This is a group of players. This is not the Players Association yet. This is a group of players. We don't know how many players they represent, but it's going to end up being significant. This is all an offshoot of the Kaepernick situation. This is all an add-on. In other words, now, taking a knee during the anthem or sitting on the bench during the anthem, that's not enough. The players want to do more, and they want the league's support in doing more. In other words, social justice warriors want recognition and permission to call attention to their cause and be permitted whatever behavior they ask on NFL games, Sunday and Monday and Thursday nights. Now, what do you think that's going to cause? What effect is that going to have? Everybody agrees that sports was an oasis. It was an enclave. It was a space away from all of that kind of controversy. It was a respite. It was a place to go spend 3 to 4 hours not thinking about that stuff. Now these players are asking, apparently, that the league join them in making this front and center for the month of November, and they want this in people's faces. Now, the players are not investors in the league. The players have put, in terms of capital and finance, nothing. They have their contracts to be paid, and they'll be paid no matter what happens. Yesterday, there was a story that the NFL may be facing givebacks up to $200 million so far in lost advertising revenue because of the declining ratings. If the ratings decline continues, it's not going to stop at $200 million. So the players are asking the owners and the league, who are the capital investors, who are essentially the property owners here. The players are not. The players' investment is not at risk, not this specific. I mean, they have their contracts. What this is going to do to the future of the game, they obviously either don't care or are wrong and think it's going to help. But I'm not sure that this is why people want to turn on the TV. They already are not. In even greater numbers, people are turning the NFL off. You can't fire these people. These are players. You can't. Certainly is saying, if I were Goodell, I'd fire him. I'd get him out of the damn league. That's not going to happen. And that isn't going to happen. Then you'd have their teams maybe boycotting their next games. If you fire Michael Bennett, I'll guarantee you Richard Sherman will lead a movement in the Seahawks and they won't show up. Well, I mean, the inmates are running the asylum in universities now, and we look what's happening there. Have you heard at least at Pitt? University of Pittsburgh students demand disarming of police and free tuition. University of Pittsburgh students are demanding that screw officials disarm all the university police and ban city cops from the campus entirely. A 15-point ultimatum issued during a Friday protest, this is last week, calls for the University of Pittsburgh to divest from fossil fuels and private prisons, to guarantee student workers at least $15 an hour, and advocate for federal cancellation of student debt and free tuition. University of Pittsburgh students are demanding that school officials disarm all university police and banning city cops in the campus entirely. According to the Pitt Maverick, the school newspaper, members of the school's fossil-free Pitt Coalition and another group, United Students Against Sweatshops, presented a list of 15 demands to the Chancellor, Patrick Gallagher, during a Friday protest. No cops, no armed university cops, no city cops on the campus. Everybody gets free tuition and all student loans forgiven, and the university must divest from fossil fuels, their investments, and private prisons. Now, the inmates are running universities. The young snowflakes, the students, they are, there's no argument about this. Look what it's done to the University of Missouri. University of Missouri, no crowds at their football games, enrollment is way, it's a ghost town compared to what it used to be. Many universities around the country were the snowflakes and the social justice warriors. They're running the place. And Snerdley says, get rid of those players. Get them out of the league. That's not the way this is going to go. Not the way this is going to go. I told you the NFL was gone 2 years ago when I saw the media, when I saw the sports media, which derives its living from this game. All of these sports reporters, commentators, and when I saw them jump on this concussion bandwagon and start beating up and creating this image that this game is dangerous, it's deadly, and the owners don't care, and the commissioner doesn't. When the media started bringing down the very league they cover, I told you 2 years ago, go back and find the original show, get you the tape. It's over. We just don't know it yet. We don't know when, but it's over. And it's happening faster than I thought it would. And one of the reasons, I'll tell you something else that's happening in the NFL that nobody's talking about yet. All of the mothers and dads at the Pop Warner level, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, not letting their kids play football. Why would you? You can't watch a football game for the fun of it anymore. Football now is watching in fear that somebody may die. Somebody's going to get a brain injury and die. So you can't watch the game the way you used to anymore. That is the impact of this. It is over. For all practical matters, the NFL is never going to be what it was. Social activism has taken over. It's infected. The media, being liberal social activists, have participated in this, whether they know it or not. All of these player suspensions, taking your marquee players and suspending them for 4 games, 6 games, 10 games, 11 games, thinking that you're impressing fans. Any allegation of spousal abuse doesn't matter. We're going to get rid of you whether the cops charge you or not. Hello, Ezekiel Elliott. And the media reports this like they love it. They love this kind of stuff. They love covering suspensions. They love covering court battles. They love everything got nothing to do with the game. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some bad actors here. Don't misunderstand. But they've always been there. And the fans accepted it. But now that's becoming what the league is known for. The dangers, the risks. Players that have brain damage or can commit suicide by the time they're 50. That's what people think when they watch games now. You can't blame them. That's how it's been covered. Movie, concussion. Mike Webster and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's an evolution that nobody was going to be able to stop. And once the left, this is universal truth, once the left sees something that needs to be fixed, look out. They never fix anything. They just identify something and break it and then make it worse. Nothing is ever resolved, and they're never happy. Whatever result they are given. Back to the phones we go. This is Rich in Oil City, Pennsylvania. Glad you called, sir. What's happening? What's shaking? What's up?
Hey, dittos, Rush. This is Rich from Oil City, and I've been with you since the Clinton administration. And we've gone through illegal Chinese money, sold military technology, national security. With the Obamas, we had spying on journalists, Benghazi. We had IRS doing things against the conservatives and the Tea Party, poll violations. At what point do we just don't care anymore? Why should we care? We have the reins of power to prosecute, but nobody ever gets prosecuted. And all they really want is our money and our votes so that they, keep us on the line. And but nobody ever goes to jail for their crimes.
Let me ask you a question: is what prompted your call? Which I agree, I understand what is what prompted this. The ongoing time being spent now on the latest involving the investigation of Manafort and Mueller's investigation of Trump. Are you asking why we should care about any of this?
Yeah, and believe me, I know that Trump is, somebody in Trump's administration is going to probably be prosecuted because both sides don't like him. And I think that he's very vulnerable. But, it seems that there's a code for both sides that some people are just too big to ever be prosecuted. And, look at Harry Reid, for instance. We know a lot of the things that he's been involved in.
Yeah, but there is a prosecution underway that stuns me, and that is of the Democrat senator from New Jersey, Menendez. And this is deep. This guy is going to get, he is in big trouble. They are really gunning for this guy. Your point is well taken. Where is the investigation? Where are the charges against Hillary Clinton and all this other stuff? Where are they? Well, you know the answer. Why should we care? Because nothing ever happens. And that's the question that I want to answer. Why should you care? And I do have an answer for it. The saga continues. A man, a legend, a way of life. There's something else that's hurting the NFL big time. Fantasy football is now ending up a negative. With no scoring, nobody's having any fun in fantasy football. You've got the 49ers, I think the Colts, 2 or 3 other teams have not scored a touchdown this year. The offense is down. You know what they're saying is the reason? Get this. The reason, there aren't enough practices in pads. Well, that's what you guys wanted. In the latest contract negotiations, the CBA, for the purposes of safety and elimination of concussions and danger, there are only 14 padded practices permitted per season. NFL teams practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, with Wednesday being a big day. They have Monday go in, get injuries treated, maybe look at film from Sunday's game. Tuesday's the off day. This is on teams that are playing on Sunday. Tuesday's the off day. Wednesday you come back, you're given a game plan, you have your meetings, you go out, practice for 2 hours. That's where you implement what you're going to do against the other team, any offensive, defensive changes. Only there's 17 weeks in an NFL season. Each team has a bye week, 1 padded practice on average. And people say, well, if there's only one, and Belichick said it, the coach of the Patriots, if we can't wear pads, then we can't tackle. And if we can't practice tackling, we don't get better at it. Which is absolutely right. This came in a discussion of why are so many offensive lines so bad this year? And that's because, they can't practice. Well, that's what the players wanted. And it was granted because of the focus on injuries and safety, concussions and suicides and all that. And what all of this has caused, I don't care whether you like football or not, but all of this stuff is when you politicize things, it's the left that does it. And when the left politicizes something, I guarantee you they're going to destroy it. It happens in everything they politicize. Look at everything in life you're cynical about, and I'll guarantee you liberal politics dominates it. Guarantee you. Maybe there's exceptions and everything, of course. But liberal politics has overtaken the NFL. Every aspect of liberalism, the presumption of guilt on the part of wealthy owners just because they're wealthy and they're white and the players are black, 75%, that's not good. That's not good. And then you add the fact that now people cannot avoid it. They cannot help but watch football thinking maybe they shouldn't be because it's so dangerous. Whether it is or isn't if you condition your fan base to believe that what they're watching is dangerous and therefore not good, they're not going to enjoy it. There may be some guilty. You're always going to have people that, want to see the car wreck, but they don't want to see the aftermath of it. And when you have people watching football who have as their primary focus the negatives they've been told about it, it's impossible to get the ingredients necessary to be a fan back. I'm just telling you. Standard old-fashioned fandom is, I don't think, possible in the NFL anymore. Not because of the way the game is portrayed, covered, characterized. Then you go to fantasy football. Those are people that don't have team allegiance. They don't care about individual teams. They draft players from every team, and they have their own team. Their running back may be from the Cardinals. Their quarterback may be from the Steelers. Their defensive unit may be from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there's no team allegiance among those people. But if there is no offense, if the players they've drafted are not scoring, it's no fun. So if you lose the fantasy football crowd, you've lost another element of the fan base that has been created with that unique way of becoming interested in the game. Football, I always fall back to this position, and this is true of anything, not just football. Football used to be hard to find. Now, follow me on this. It was on every Sunday, but if you lived in an NFL city, every Sunday, when that team was on the road, you had to watch that game. It was a league requirement. When your NFL team was at home, your TV stations in the local market could not televise an out-of-market game when your team was at home because they wanted you at the stadium. And they figured, I'm going back 20 years now, they figured if another game from another market with a better game was on TV than the one in your town, you would watch it on TV. So if you had an NFL team in your town, you maybe only got 2 games a Sunday. If your team was on the road, you'd get 3. You'd get a 1 o'clock game or a noon game, and then 2 games at 3 o'clock or 4. And depending on when your home team is playing on the road, you might get 2 1 o'clock games and 1 late game. But the point is, you did not get the best game of the week by definition unless your team was playing in it. And that meant it was special. That meant highlights were a big deal. When you didn't see, let's say your team's the Steelers, but you don't live there. Well, you were at the mercy of the networks in the league as to what Steelers games were televised into your market. And most of them would not be. So in order to see, you would have to wait for highlights or read your newspaper or the internet or whatever. But now, whatever you want is whenever you want it, which is great, don't misunderstand. But it takes away the specialness of it. You look at Apple. They make and announce these new phones, but damn it, you can't have one. You know this iPhone 10? This is state-of-the-art, technologically way advanced. Without getting into detail, they announced this phone would go on sale. You could order it October 27th, and deliveries would begin on November 3rd, because they had 2 other new phones that went on sale last week and start delivering tomorrow. And they didn't want those new phones to be cannibalized by the super-duper phone. So they announced this super-duper phone, but say, you can't get this till November. You can't get it till November. Well, some people don't want to wait that long, and they want the iPhone 8 to sell, so they make it the only thing you can get. Well, guess what? The news is that they're having so much production trouble, they haven't even begun to manufacture the iPhone 10 yet, and they won't until middle October. What this means is that November 3rd, 99% of the people who want one are not going to be able to get one this year. This phone, you're not going to be able to get it with ease for 6 months. The supply-demand balance is going to be so out of whack because they can't make it. They just can't mass-produce this phone yet. It's that unique and special. Well, that just makes you want it all the more. But at some point, when it's so far off that you can't get it, you'll stop striving. Because who wants to be that revved up? I don't want to see 3 months waking up every day hoping they're wrong, and I get it. You take what's available, and then. But with stuff that's there every day for the asking, for the taking, it loses some of its, for lack of a better word, specialness. I think this has happened to the NFL. It was unavoidable. I'm not commenting on decisions they've made. It's just a fact of life. And when it's instantly available anywhere, and if it's not up to snuff, and if the quality isn't there, you don't have to watch it. And if they then change the whole attitude from the game is the game to the game is a high-risk, very dangerous thing that may not be worth people playing, because who wants to suffer brain damage? It could lead to suicide. Why do that? Why support something like that? That's what people are asking themselves now. And thank you, NFL and sports media, because that's the picture you've painted of the game. They would say, well, we didn't do it. We just reported what's happening. You did it with glee. It's liberalism. It corrupts. So anyway, now, have you heard about this? In Cahokia, Illinois, which is not far from St. Louis, eighth graders or 8-year-olds? 8-year-olds, and a football team of 8-year-olds in Cahokia, all of them asked the coach to take a knee during the national anthem or before the game so they could emulate the pros. And the coach said, if you feel it, do it. So now 8-year-olds, at least in Cahokia, have been granted permission to emulate what they see from the Colin Kaepernicks in the NFL. And they kneel during the national anthem ahead of a recent game. Now, we had a caller, why should we care about any of this? He was specifically asking about, why should we care? These investigations into people, they never lead to charges. Hillary Clinton's never get charged. Bill Clinton's never going to get charged. Why should we care? Well, the reason you should care, I look at the clock, I've got to take a, I'll answer this when we get back, and I swear we're going to get back to phones. Don't go away. Half my brain tied behind my back, as always, just to make it fair. At the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Anti-Leftist and Anti-Media Studies. And that's the answer to the question. Why do we care about it? Why should you care? I don't know why. I'll tell you why I care. What am I spend time dissecting the Manafort investigation, what Mueller is doing. I want you to understand who the establishment is, how they think. And more than that, I want you to understand liberalism. You know, God, I've said it, I don't know how many times. If more people could become ideologically rooted and educated and able to spot and then equate modern day problems with their liberal causes, I have always believed that we could go a long way toward making liberalism a minority thing. I know it looks like we're losing ground, and maybe we are, but that's the objective here. I'm a warrior on this stuff, folks. That's why I spend time talking about it. And I know that repetition is necessary. People have to hear things over and over again before they remember them, before they come instantly recallable when you're having conversations with other people. And to help explain things that may appear to be one thing on the surface but have totally different real reasons why they're happening. I know Hillary never going to get charged. I know all that stuff. I know Benghazi and her illegal emails, and I know all that. But there are people trying. Judicial Watch, there are any number of people who are trying to see to it she gets held accountable. James O'Keefe with his Project Veritas. There are all kinds of people trying. And they deserve attaboys. They deserve encouragement and applause when they succeed. It's an ongoing thing, but it's about something crucial, the future of the country. And what kind of country your kids are going to grow up in and inherit and someday lead, challenges they're going to face. Anyway, back to the phones. Paul in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. You're next. It's great to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, and a very great and genuine pleasure to speak with you, Rush, also. Thanks for working me in. Schumer and Pelosi have both said they're going to try to bring the DACA deal they made with Trump to vote as early as possible. And that won't be hard because they have the Dreamer bill they passed in 2010 in the House to dust off and throw on the clerk's desk. But there needs to be a political reality check before this thing comes into Congress and starts being discussed. And the reality of the situation is the American public has made clear on a number of occasions that it is unalterably opposed to amnesty in any form. President George W. Bush, when he tried to pass a comprehensive bill in 2006, for example, in the following midterms, a couple of months later, the Republican Party lost both the House and the Senate. And then when W. took another bite at the apple in 2007 with the Democratic Congress.
Here's the thing about that is, as far as inside the Beltway, this thing that we call the establishment, that didn't matter. It didn't matter that Bush lost. The Democrats were never going to give up the issue. The issue wasn't going to die because Republicans lost power in the process. The Republicans are going to lose out, but they still remain in the establishment as loyal soldiers, and to this day, they're still striving for it. The Republican Party still wants to echo the Democrats. They want to pass comprehensive immigration reform. They still want amnesty. It still hasn't happened yet, precisely because people do lose elections over it, and the big one was Trump winning on the basis that it isn't going to happen. So, as it turns out that Chuck and Nancy are experiencing the greater blowback. In other words, their supporters and voters are far angrier at them for daring to work with Trump than Trump's supporters are mad at him for working with them. They're not mad at all. Trump has such a devoted voter base that they still trust him. They don't doubt him. If he's going to do a deal with Chuck and Nancy, then it must be what's necessary for him to get done what he wants to get done. And they have unshakable faith and trust in him. Chuck and Nancy don't with their crowd. It's being demonstrated here. And Mitch and Paul, McConnell and Ryan, they don't either. But the swamp's never going to give up on this. Chamber of Commerce is never going to give up on this. They're going to keep coming at it from any which way they can. And that's another reason why I keep explaining and answering questions. And along those lines, you aware, Mr. Snerdley, you're aware what's going on in Alabama? The Senate runoff election down there. I got a headline here. This is from Breitbart News. The swamp, which is the establishment. Republicans in the swamp are worried that if Luther Strange loses, they might have to resign. I know. Is this not incredible? Washington Post is reporting that although Donald Trump and his staff were hesitant to campaign in Alabama for Luther Strange, he's McConnell's guy. You know, people have asked, why would Trump endorse this guy? At the time, I'm sure he was trying to curry some favor with Mitch. Swamp Republicans forced the president's hand, fearing that a victory for Judge Roy Moore would motivate several allies to retire from the Senate rather than face primary challengers and so forth. So this to me is hilarious. You have some senators, Republican moderate rhino-type senators, who are looking at this election in Alabama. And if Strange, one of them, loses, rather than accommodate what is now the mindset of Republican voters, they think they might have to resign. They think they might have to retire. Because to them it would mean they're going to lose too. Versus all they would have to do is for 3 months, just 3 months, even just if they're acting like they support the Trump agenda, they would be undefeatable. But they don't see it? No, I don't. I don't think power is going to be out for months in Puerto Rico. I think some entrepreneurs are going to go down there and they're going to have it up and running long before the drive-bys are trying to tell everybody power is going to be back. In fact, I'd be willing to make a wager that power is going to be back in Puerto Rico long before the drive-bys are leading you to believe that it's going to be back. Anyway, great to have you here, folks. Remember, off tomorrow. Back here on Monday, we'll have Mark Stein sitting in behind the the bronze EIB microphone tomorrow. Here behind the golden EIB microphone, I am ensconced firmly today. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. And the email address, I check them during the break, lrushbo@eibnet.us. I want you to get ready for more of this. You know, we shared with you the story earlier today. University of Pittsburgh, students there have demanded, it's a 15-point ultimatum that the asylum has received from the inmates. And among the 15 items demanded are all university police disarmed and no Pittsburgh city cops to be allowed on the campus. And that would include sheriff's office deputies. No law enforcement at all permitted on campus, and the university police must be disarmed. Another item in the 15-point demand was forgiveness of all student loans and free tuition. And it's not isolated. Students have been demanding free tuition for a while now. The snowflakes are raising hell. And remember, we just had news yesterday, public opinion survey, 20% of current college students believe that violence is not only justifiable, it's called for against speech they don't want to hear. Forget the First Amendment, forget free speech, forget the university as a place of inquiry and openness and exploration of all ideas, concepts, theorems, and so forth. No. If you don't say what they want to hear, 20% of them believe violence against you is called for, not just permissible, but called for. That's nationwide survey of college students. University of Pittsburgh, free tuition, forgiveness of student loans, and banning of armed police on campus. San Francisco, the city, is suing 5 of the world's largest oil and gas companies for the costs of seawalls and other infrastructure needed to protect against climate change. The lawsuit filed on Tuesday in California accuses Big Oil of ignoring warnings that fossil fuels would cause catastrophic global warming and mounting campaigns to discredit climate change science. There is no climate change science, folks. There are climate change forecasts based on climate change models. There is no empirical scientific data that human beings affect the climate. Anytime you see the word consensus and science, throw it out. Science is not up to a vote. There cannot be consensus that confirms a scientific theory, precept, or concept. Climate change is a political religion, but there's no evidence. In fact, there hasn't been any warming in 15 years. And so the way they're dealing with it, well, that's because our windmills and solar panels are working. I've been wondering how long it would take them to acknowledge the no warming and to somehow pervertedly take credit for it. They spent most of these 15 years denying the warming or the lack of warming, but now they're acknowledging it. And the Washington Post even had that story yesterday acknowledging this could be a setback. They're having to admit there hasn't been any warming. And if there isn't any warming, what does that mean of the models? And the computer models are all they have. Just forecasts of what it's going to be 30 years from now when a lot of people aren't going to be alive to know whether they're right or wrong. 50 years from now, in 2100, there won't be a Manhattan. The sea levels will have risen, but nobody alive today will be alive to know whether that's true or not in 2100. They never predict what's going to happen next year with climate change, because then they could be disproven. They never predict even when I first heard of it back in the mid-'80s, the predictions always were 20 years from now, minimum. A guy named Oppenheimer is the first guy I saw talk about this. And he even admitted we can't prove it, but he said we don't have time to wait to find out if we're right. We must assume that we're right and start raising taxes and changing people's behavior immediately. So now San Francisco wants to sue oil companies because they are doing two things. They are causing climate change because they're investing in producing fossil fuels, and they're denying it. They're denying climate change. They're lying. They're deniers. They're like the modern-day Nazis, and we've got to sue them. Now, if a judge doesn't throw this out, folks, this is just the beginning. If the courts don't slap this down and proclaim it to be frivolous and wacko, then this is going to become a modus operandi for the left on global warming, is to start suing the people and industries that they claim are responsible for it. Hillary Clinton, on her book tour, says that Melania Trump isn't doing enough about cyberbullying. Hillary Clinton said that First Lady Melania Trump isn't doing enough to tackle cyberbullying. No, and look, I don't think anybody's doing enough on cyberbullying. Clinton told Mike, the publication, when asked if she thought Melania had enforced her platform. Trump has condemned cyberbullying. She did so in her first United Nations speech in New York City on Wednesday. So Melania makes a speech on cyberbullying, and of course Mrs. Clinton's reaction, she's not doing enough on cyberbullying. Mrs. Clinton, why is there cyberbullying? You and Obama were there for 8 years. Why aren't these things fixed? Why is there still climate change? Why is North Korea still launching missiles? You had 8 years to fix all this. You said you were going to fix it when you ran for president. You lost. You got embarrassed and humiliated in your defeat. Why are all these things still issues? You people had 8 years. You had everything. You had the House. You had the Senate. You had the country. The country so wanted you all to do well. Botched health care, nothing. And now you blame Melania Trump for not doing enough on cyberbullying? Clinton told Mike that online harassment has a particularly damaging effect on young people who are so influenced by and personally affected by what is said about them or said to them. Well, what's the solution for that? I mean, if these people are upset by what's being said to them or about them, then we need to shut those people up, right? We need to call them bullies. I will wager that half, if not more, of these cyberbullies are the same people leaving caustic, mean-spirited comments anonymously all over the World Wide Web. They're dishing it out as well, but they do so gutlessly and anonymously. Have you seen this? Hungary builds a wall, and they've cut illegal immigration by over 99%. Hungary has slashed illegal immigration by over 99% after rolling out a series of powerful border fences in response to the European migrant crisis. You know where else there isn't any of this as a problem? Poland. Poland does not permit any refugees. Poland doesn't permit any illegal immigrants, and they don't have a crime problem. They don't have a terrorism problem. They don't have, and the European Union says that's not fair. And the president of France called him out, says, it's not fair. You need to start taking some immigrants and some refugees so that you can get your share of terrorism, so you can get your share of crime. He literally said it, folks. It's not fair that Poland doesn't have their own share of this. Liberalism spreading misery equally and calling it fairness. I want to grab a call quickly because it'll take us into, I got a couple transitions here, and the call's going to fit well. This is Mary Jane in Deerfield, Ohio, and I'm glad you called. What's up?
I'll tell you what, I'm so happy to have you answer the phone. It was just like a dream come true. Anyway, I was listening to you yesterday and earlier today talking about Nancy Pelosi's town hall meeting. And I really think that it was staged. If you saw the meeting from the beginning.
Wait a minute. You think it was staged?
I do.
And why?
Well, if you look at the whole thing, the beginning, Nancy's talking at the podium, and she's got a whole group of people sitting nicely on chairs in front of her, and they're talking. And then the camera pans to the right, and you can see these young adults over there standing, and they start marching in on her. Now, they all have little papers they're reading from. The one girl is saying one thing, and then they all repeat it, and then it's just, it was staged. Nancy didn't have her usual look of threat, like when she's confronted. She usually has this look.
Well, wait a minute. No. Pelosi always has those gigantic deer in the headlight eyes. You can't tell whether she did it or not. But now, wait, hold just a second here.
Okay.
Because the camera turned to these people before they started moving, you think they were in on it too?
Yes, they were.
Okay, let's listen to it. We have the soundbite in question here, and Mary Jane thinks was actually a stage and scripted event. This was Monday. San Francisco, Pelosi held a press conference to urge passage of the DREAM Act so that the DACA kids would be allowed legally to stay.
For a long time, we've been fighting the fight for the Dreamers. My colleagues. We're not Dreamers! I'm not. All 11 million! All 11 million! Do you want to hear an answer, or do you just want to shout? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You do not. You don't know what you're talking about.
Were you able to hear all that? You were able to hear them say, you're a liar. Okay.
I did. But
all 11 million. And she says, you think the whole thing was staged, scripted? It was a performance.
It was. It's a thing, a bargain.
For what purpose?
She's going to use.
What purpose? What purpose?
Well, she's going to use this as a bargaining chip at the end so that they can get as many people on amnesty. The people that voted for Trump, we don't really maybe have a problem with giving these kids that were brought here at a very young age to maybe get some kind of something. But to get all their family and make them all citizens, we've already done this once. We did it back with Reagan, I think it was, and they promised a wall then. We have a real serious problem here.
All right, now let me get it. That was 1986. That was Simpson-Mazzoli, and we amnestized, if you will, about 3 million. And with the assurance they're going to secure the border, and it was never going to happen again. And, of course, now we're up. They say 12 million. It's got to be much more than that.
I'm sure it is.
Now, one other thing here. There's another aspect of this that's just caught on that people now just routinely say that I am suspicious of. They were all brought here as young children, didn't know what was happening. It's not their fault. Tim Cook from Apple. Hell, everybody is out there saying this. We don't know who these people are. They're not all kids, as it turns out. You're right about that. They keep telling you it's 800,000. Some of them came on the trains from Central America a year ago without their parents.
Right.
But it's a magic when you say they're children, and we can't round up children. Not a country. There is not a single country in the world that permits illegal alien children to stay and become citizens. Not a single country, and there's a reason for it. If they did, then no other restriction would matter, because you couldn't keep a child out if that were the law. And that's the dangerous thing about this. But I'm still fascinated. You think the whole thing was scripted and she was in on it?
If you watch the whole thing, that part that you played was after the fact. Those people had all swarmed in from the side. If you get the beginning of that, there's a whole bunch of people just sitting in chairs. And these people were off to the right side, all standing there, and they swarmed on her. I don't know, now you don't see that anymore. You don't see that part. And the thing of it is, if you see the whole thing, it was definitely staged. And Nancy was not surprised, like her eyes weren't bulging out like she
You may
does.
have a point in one thing. A lot of people would have to be paid to swarm Nancy Pelosi. That's something he would not do on their own.
Yes.
But I get your point. The whole thing is staged. The left does pay protesters. I mean, half of Occupy Wall Street was employees.
The thing of it
Black Lives Matter and all. A lot of these are George Soros financed and bust-in people. Some of them are. But you think the purpose of this was to anesthetize much more than just kids?
Yes.
You think?
Yes, they want their parents and all their grandparents and their uncles and their aunts and their, the ones that are.
Well,
still
why
left
protest Democrats? Why protest Pelosi then?
Well, it's just so that she can say, "Look what they've." Believe me. I listen to you. I've been listening to you since you were on on TV, and I just love you, Rush, and I love all your group. But the thing of it is, I really do think that the Democrats, the upper echelon Democrats, they don't do anything that they don't know what's going to happen. They don't do it.
Well,
if there was going to be a crowd there swarming Nancy,
I understand your thinking. That this kind of thing could have been prevented. That spontaneous things like this are never spontaneous, particularly when they happen to Republicans. Here's the downside of this is this is not how it's been reported. The way people saw this, aside from the very highly attuned and aware like you, most people saw this, my God, these people are mad at Democrats. They're mad at Chuck and Nancy, which they don't see that. Democrats don't get protested this way. So your view probably is a special and a little bit of minority view in terms of numbers, but I will ponder it because elements of what you say are absolutely true in terms of history. They do organize, they do practice, rehearse, they do pay protesters to come in. There are scripts. I'm glad you called. I appreciate it, Mary Jane. I have to take a break because I'm out of time here. We'll be back in a sec, folks. And sticking with the phones, this is Rich in Long Island. By the way, I have an alternative theory to Mary Jane. I want to squeeze another call in here. Rich, how are you?
Good, Rush. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm calling. First, I want to start by saying I'm a conservative social studies teacher, a rare breed these days, but that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling about my daughter who is attending a liberal university and is pulling her hair out, and I'm asking for advice from you to help her cope. From a young age, middle schooler, we've argued and debated and, about the issues that have been going on with, liberals. And I told her, be prepared. She's a political science major, communications major. I said, be prepared. You don't know what you're in for. And, she texts me every day and it's just crazy. And, some of the things that are going on, she was in one of her journalism classes, for example, and they were talking about a tweet about LeBron James for 20 minutes and how it was a racist tweet, and she raised her hand and spoke up and defended it, saying it wasn't. And, at the end of the class, when it was over, several students approached her in a hall and called her a racist. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The Republican clubs, which she's joined already, can't even get space in the student center to recruit people for the Republican club. They force them to sit outside the student center. These are things that she's enduring, and there are other things that she's been saying, but these are just a couple of examples that, going on campus. She even called me before and says, you're paying a lot of money to get indoctrinated. I said, don't worry, you're smarter than that. You're not going to get straight. So I just want to get your opinion. What can I tell her? Because she's smart, she's a great debater, but I'm just trying to keep her strong.
She's a freshman?
She's a transfer student. She's a sophomore. She goes to my alma mater, and I was there in the 80s when Reagan was president.
Well, all right, and, look, I've got a break. Look, I've got a break. I'll hold you through the break, and we get this question in one form or another, how to deal with liberalism on campus. The best answer is get her out of there, but I know you're not going to do that. So, now, Rich in Long Island. I'm not going to ask you to name a university. It doesn't matter. There's two ways you
bash my alma mater.
Well, I know it's important. It's family legacy and this kind of thing. Your story is common for all kinds of people. Your daughter can get a great education staying immersed in this stuff if she's got the desire, the fortitude to put up with it. But I'm telling you,
and she does. I told her she's going to teach them something. Even the professor.
Well, then if if she's willing to try that could impact her grade. I mean, these people are intolerant.
Oh, I know. I even talked to her about that. I said, I hope they don't hold it against you. If someone who speaks their mind and has an opinion and has a brain, you just hold it against you for speaking up in class.
20% of college students today in a big national poll this week say that violence against people who say things they don't want to hear is called for. That doesn't mean they can legally do it. It's just that's their attitude here. They firmly believe, 20% believe that it's okay to beat people up if they're going to confront you and say things you don't want to hear. Her life is going to be, depending on how much she stands up to them, that'll be considered provocative, and they're either going to ostracize her, ignore her, bully her, or whatever. Now, she can get a great education learning how to deal with this, because that's going to happen. It happens to all of us in life at some point. But
I told her when she went to her Republican club meeting last night, I said, the first thing your club should talk about is, how can we get in the student center? This is unacceptable. Why should you accept being put outside when everyone else can be inside? I said, go solve that problem.
Well, what are they going to do? How are they going to do it?
I guess they'll have to talk to maybe the person in charge of student affairs, who's in charge of allocating the space in the student center for the different groups to recruit. But I said, you need to get on that. You shouldn't just sit back and accept that. You need to go out there and talk to someone, get the professor who's an advisor involved. Just don't accept that.
If she's willing to fight for this stuff, I'm always for that. And it's an education unto itself, doing this. But it also holds the risk that she could eventually choose the path of least resistance and start shutting up and then conforming to it. You also have to consider how's this going to impact the actual education she gets. I mean, what if the professors are going to flunk her? What if the professors are going to give her average grades when she does great work?
Right, and that's my concern. I said, if you have an A and they decide to give you a C because of it, then we have to have some conversations, and obviously there's some serious issues that need to be addressed. But we're only a couple of weeks in, so we'll kind of wait it out and see how that goes.
Well, it sounds to me like she's revved up for it, and if that's the case, then that aspect of it isn't a problem. If she was intimidated by this and asking you, Dad, what do I do? My God, then you'd have a different set of questions to answer. But it sounds like you raised her extremely well, and it sounds to me like she has the one thing that you can't buy and you can't fake, and that's confidence. And I'm telling you, if she has that, and if it's coupled with a desire to triumph, then let her go. That's the best advice I could give you, because it's people like that are going to be necessary in dealing with this kind of tyranny is what it is, and it's legitimate fascism, and all these Antifa people are against fascism. They're practicing it. So I as long as she's enjoying it and it's not harming the overall level of her education, by that I mean the acquisition of knowledge, then people like her are going to be needed. And you're right to encourage her the way you are. But you should also tell her that if she's going to go to the president's office or the dean or anywhere else, these are the reason this is happening. They are letting the inmates run the asylum. So she probably shouldn't have high expectations of sympathetic ears among the people running the place. Well, I'm glad you called. Rick in Las Vegas, you're next, sir, and it's great to have you. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you, Rush. I appreciate answering my call. And I was listening to you earlier today talk about the letter to Roger Goodell from the football players.
Yes.
And talking, the downgrade of the viewership and stuff. And I think if the NFL grants them November Activism Awareness Month, they're going to really destroy their ratings, because on November 4th, this nightmare must end. The Trump-Pence regime must go. And there's protests that are being already started on November 4th that are going to be like Occupy Wall Street. And I'm curious to see if the NFL is going to make a stand on this or not, if they're going to say no or yes, or because it's out there. It's obviously the information's out there that they want this, and I just think that would be the NFL would be taking sides.
Well, there's another reason I think this is being done. Now, you cannot ignore this. In addition to everything else, what this is in part is a voter registration drive. This is designed to rally the anti-cop and anti-establishment forces to get them active politically. But the NFL, players are already now beginning to protest on the field during the game. It was Michael Bennett of the Seahawks last Sunday who, it wasn't quite 100%, but it looked to everybody that saw it like he was giving the Black Power salute after a touchdown or after some play. Much like the athletes at the 1968 Summer Olympics, USA track athletes in Mexico City, one of whose name was John Carlos. I forget the other's name, but that's the raised fist in the air. And he did that. His fist was not closed. But a lot of people thought, aha. And I saw a story, activism makes it to the field in the NFL. What he's talking about, folks, is there have been 4 players in the NFL who have sent a letter to Roger Goodell, the commissioner, asking the league to permit social activism against police brutality and prison overpopulation of African Americans during the month of November. Somehow these players want that signified, and they want it much like October is, they wear pink for breast cancer, and a couple of weeks they wear camouflage gloves and socks and so forth to raise consciousness of the military. But this is in direct contravention of why people watch. This is the kind of stuff people want to escape when they invest their time in sports. Remember, I want to repeat something to you. When I worked at the Kansas City Royals from 1979 to 1983, after every season, I was in the marketing department. We had marketing meetings league-wide, and this particular year was out in Scottsdale. And the organizers of the meeting were the people from the Oakland A's who had won the division that year, so they put together the plan. And they got this Harvard sociologist to come out and speak to us. Marketing directors. And the guy, he knew you're there to get more people more often in your ballparks. So he gave us his take on the psychology and sociology of baseball fans and sports fans in general. He said one thing I have never forgotten because it's inarguably true. Back then, this is 82 or 81 is when this would have been. But he said sports is the one thing, the only thing in which you can invest total passion without consequence. And he followed that up by saying, try that with a woman. Or if you're a woman, try that with a man. And what he was saying was, you can tell your team every which way you know you love them. You can show them. You can show up. You can cheer. You can buy jerseys and memorabilia. You can do all that. And the team will never divorce you. The team will never try to take your house. The team will never kick you out. The team will always appreciate you and love you. They may lose, but they will always. And the try it with a man or woman was, people are afraid to totally open up because they fear rejection. But your team won't reject you. Well, I happen to think he was right. I mean, that's the definition of a dyed-in-the-wool sports fan. And now you can't do that. The simple fact is you can't invest total passion in your team without, there is consequence. Now, your team will do all kinds of crazy things to tick you off and disappoint you, and the players playing the game will do it too. So it's not as free and clear and pure and fun as it used to be, and it will not be so long as sports, all of it, continues to be politicized. And as I said, who does the politicizing? It's not a bunch of conservatives trying to take over the NFL. It is leftist, liberal, Democrats. They're the ones that are trying to politicize everything. And in the process, they end up corrupting everything. Or much of what they touch. And you can see it happening. You can see this coming 3 years ago in the NFL. I got to take a break. A little long here in the segment. We're coming right back. Okay, remember, folks, not here tomorrow. Mark Stein, I'm looking, Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell have hit new lows in polling data. Story I didn't have a chance to get to, but that's sufficient to tell you. Mark Stein here tomorrow, and we'll be back, hopefully in a state of normalcy on Monday. I appreciate your being here, folks, as is the case every day. Adios.